Well, good early morning, good morning, especially if you are on the West Coast or Mountain Time. It is nice and early in the morning, and good to see everybody this beautiful Monday morning. We're going to rock and roll because we're going to get started very, very quick here because I know that you have a lot of things to do today. I know you have a lot of things, but I do know this. I do know that this is a hot topic out here all across the United States in light of this, in light of the NAR ruling and all the things that are happening. And listen, I'm not your person to really talk about all of that. I'll let Shon have that conversation. And if you have questions for him, I'm certainly sure he will, entertain those type of questions. But for me, no. I'm just going to introduce Shon. Everybody knows, many of you probably know Shon Kokoszka, and that's one of the reasons that you are here. You know the name, you know the legend, the man, the legend. And so again, and he's getting older and that kind of stuff. So you really know him. But you know the last name Kokoszka. And Shon, whenever we were at Keller Williams together, him and I, and we were doing Bold, Shon was running Bold, and I got to go out with him. He trained me to be a Bold coach, and we both did it for years and years and years. He's done so much. He even had for that time coaching corporate offices, for example, like McDonald's and places like that. I mean, that's just huge. But one of the biggest claim to fames is this 20-point buyer presentation. My 36 years in the business, I got to tell you this. When I came into the business, there was no such thing as buyer agency agreement, just so you know. I mean, we represented, both sides represented the seller. And we had to get the buyer to sign off that we were a buyer's agent, however, showing them property, but we worked for the seller, basically. We were not a buyer's agent. We worked for the seller. And then it changed somewhere. I'm not for sure the date, 1993, 94, somewhere like that, where it changed by having buyer agency agreements. Now it's starting to do some shaky things again. But here's what I do know. You've got to have a buyer's presentation today. You've got to be able to go in and you've got to be able to convince them that you're the best person for the job to be able to get the kind of money that you want to still make as a buyer's agent. Shon closed 100 transactions a year for 15 years straight, and with this buyer presentation that you're about to see. So I want to bring him on in just a second and let him begin and talk to you just a little bit. I mean, over 4,000 transactions. Come on. That's a lot of transactions over the years also. But let me say this to you. Somewhere in the middle of the presentation, Shon and I had talked about how could we, and I know some of you are going to turn off right now, so please don't turn off. We are icon coaching. So we're always going to believe that everybody needs a coach. Somewhere around halfway, and this is the only thing we're going to really be talking about today. So we're about halfway. There is a new way. We trust that at Icon, we're going to do something revolutionary. No more real monthly fees for coaching. If you're interested in one-on-one coaching, and you cannot afford the $1,000, $2,000 a month, every month, no matter what, whether you are producing or not, you still have to pay, then somewhere around halfway, I want you to listen to him because he's going to offer you some free coaching also from him. Jeez. And listen to this. Here's what we're calling it: result-driven coaching. Result-driven coaching. It's revolutionary. Can't wait for you to hear it. But without further delay, ladies and gentlemen, give it up for the great Shon Kokoszka.
That's kind of you, Rob. Thank you. Rob is the CEO of Icon Coaching, and he kind of steers the ship. And we have a lot of fun together, just helping people. And all of our clients are absolutely killing it. They're just having so much fun, making so much money, and they're doing it through clarity. And that's what I want to help you with today. In fact, I have a great deal of respect for your investment of time. And gang, I don't take that lightly. So I've got just a couple of goals. Number one is to make sure you know where you're at. And let's get real and right about that without any judgment whatsoever. See, where you're at today has no bearing on where you're going to be 90 days down the road with aggressive and appropriate action. Now, I want to walk you through a very quick model, if you will, that it really will help you understand, well, here's where I'm at today. So I'm going to share my screen. And Rob, give me a thumbs up if you can see a black screen. All right. So the first step in this model, many of you have seen this before. It's worth reminding you about, though. Now, by the way, this is a pyramid. If you want to draw this out, I'd encourage you to. So you draw out a pyramid and then put 4 horizontal lines through the center of the pyramid, creating 5 sections of the pyramid. Now, at the base of this pyramid, it's the foundation. Now, there are 4 things that really impact the strength, the depth, the width, the amount of rebar and steel within your foundation, and that is your knowledge. In essence, you have to know what to do. You have to know what to say. Second is your skills. So you need to know how to do it and how to say it. And then those 2 first key categories, by the way, when you focus on that, that's going to improve your mindset, which is point number 3. It's going to improve your competence, leads to a higher level of confidence, and it impacts your mindset. Now, I believe 95% of our success in real estate sales is, in fact, mindset. Now, the 4th category is our habits. See, 97% of the time, we're acting habitually, meaning that something happens, we have a reaction, which produces a result. Now, the challenge with that is that we get into these ruts, right? We get into these neural pathways where the next time that something happens, we have the same reaction and we get the same result. And yet we all understand in order to get to better, sometimes we have to get to different. So identifying the actions that are worth building habits around, this is part of your foundation. Now, I could talk for the next 3 hours about habit formation, yet I think we get the point. I just want to kind of water ski with that topic. I want you to identify activities that are worth building habits around, applying select discipline during certain hours of the day to own that activity as a habit. See, the challenge with discipline is discipline will let us down, you guys. It does all the time. We've all had that highly productive day where, man, we wake up and we're firing on all cylinders, right? And we have just the perfect day. You go to bed that night feeling this contentment, this fulfillment, and then the next day you wake up and you're somewhat lethargic, right? You just don't feel like doing that today. Can anybody relate? I know I've certainly been there where I don't feel like doing that today. And I'm talking about lead generation, lead follow-up, or practice. That's going to lead to more appointments, more contracts to negotiate, no doubt about that. So foundation, critically important. And we're going to strengthen that foundation today. And with the right foundation, gang, you can build your business as big as you want to build it. The next phase is our pipeline phase. This is your proactive lead generation. Maybe you're calling FSBOs, expired listings, circle prospecting, reaching out to your sphere of influence, maybe B2B type prospecting, attending networking events, things like that, to fill that pipeline. Now, part of filling the pipeline, of course, takes energy. It takes accountability. And that's one of the biggest challenges that we have in this industry. You guys, we're independent contractors, right? We want all the freedom, we want all the flexibility, and we struggle with doing the things that we need to do day in and day out. Now, today I'm going to share with you a presentation that will almost 100% of the time get you a signed buyer agency agreement. I've done this thousands and thousands of times, you guys, and I've split tested it. I've tweaked it. I have changed it for this market. Now, I really want you to lean in today because we're going to help you convert through your pipeline. Now, of course, with the right knowledge, skills, mindset, and habits, with the right actions, well, you're going to reach this phase, if you're not already there, that I call momentum. Now, part of the challenge with agents, once they get to a position of momentum, what they do is they take their foot off the gas pedal, don't they? They just relax. They kind of rest on the laurels of their accomplishments. And see, I think it's those of us who have the ability to erase the board of our achievements every single day and start anew. See, in real estate, we rent our success. And I want you to track with me on this. And that landlord, by the way, comes for payment every single day. So once an agent gets to momentum, oftentimes they're sucked down into the 80% work and they forget about the 20%. Now, there's just 5 things on the 20% job description list, right? It's practice, lead generation, lead follow-up, going on appointments, and negotiating contracts. Guys, those are the only 5 things that are going to boost your bank account balance. And the challenge is when we get to momentum, let's say you've got 5, 6, 10, 15 pending contracts, a lot of times they forget the 20% work and they focus on the 80% work. They're holding the hand of the client. They're dealing with the title company, the attorney, the mortgage company, the home inspection, the inspection resolution. They're dealing with all of these issues, and sadly, they ignore the 20% work. And when I'm talking 80-20, I'm talking about Pareto's principle, right? The 80-20 rule. How it applies to you in real estate is that 20% of your actions are going to yield at least 80% of your results. Yet the sad thing is a lot of people, they focus more on the 80% stuff, especially when they get them to momentum. So ultimately what happens is they fall from momentum down to pipeline the next month. Then they jump back up to momentum. Then they fall back down to pipeline, right? And they get stuck in this quagmire of just, oh man, I got to tell you, when your back's against the wall, you're going to focus on the 20% work. Are you with me? When your back isn't against the wall, when you're feeling like you're coasting and everything's going great, I promise you, you're going downhill. So every single day, we must focus on those 5 things. And it's those of you who figure out how to give an inordinate amount of your time, your energy and effort to those 5 things that are going to find yourself in a position to use the 20-point buyer presentation a heck of a lot more often. Now, the next category is leverage. Now, there's 4 categories of leverage. It's models, systems, technology, and people. Again, I could talk for the next 3 hours about that category. Yet, smart people in business, they apply leverage to their business models. Those individuals who achieve an average or below average level of income in real estate sales, well, they're being leveraged. I hope that makes sense to you. So we want to apply leverage. Now, when I talk about models, I'm talking about your economic and budgeting model. I'm talking about your lead generation and lead conversion models. And if you choose to leverage through people, your compensation models to force them to act like an owner. Now, systems, and that's what we're talking about today. This 20-point buyer presentation is a system. Now, a system to me is a standardized process that produces a consistent and predictable result. Then it's leveraged through technology. Now, many of you might have a CRM, maybe you don't, maybe you've gone 1990s on me and you're using an Excel spreadsheet, whatever the case is. Yet I encourage you to engage with a CRM and engage in training. If we go back down to foundation, knowledge and skills. So you got to know what to do, you got to know how to do it. And there are CRMs out there that allow you to build landing pages, squeeze pages, place social media ads, Google ads that generate more leads to you. And then, of course, it's finally through people. Now, I believe you're one relationship away from really just blowing up your business in a positive way. And I always look at my business just like that. I'm just missing a person. So I want you to write down 3 powerful words. You guys with me? Write down 3 powerful words. That's who, not you. Who can do that with you? Who can do that for you? If we have time today, we'll get into a showing partner model so that once you take them through the 20-point buyer presentation, you get a signed buyer agency agreement. You leverage off the most time-consuming part of the buying process, which is showing homes to somebody else. And they get a fraction of the commission because all they're doing is showing homes. So anyway, if we have time, we'll get into that a little bit later. Now, the final phase of this model toward mastery is, in fact, that. It's mastery. Now, Malcolm Gladwell tells us it takes 10,000 hours to master anything. So we got to get to work, no doubt. All right. So which phase are you in right now? And be honest with yourself. And then ask yourself, what are you going to do this week to get even an inch closer to the next phase of this model? So I'll put the model back up there. Which phase are you in right now? And I want to hear from 1 or 2 people, just real quick.
Good morning, Shon.
Hey, good morning, Donna. How are you?
Wonderful, thank you. I feel like I'm in the pipeline phase. After 5 years, I'm still not in that momentum phase. Definitely because the market has shifted. I felt like I was getting there, and then I kind of took a step backwards.
Understood. Okay. So let me say a couple of things real fast, and then I want to ask you a question. First and foremost, we have to look at this model as an and versus an either or. See, a lot of people think, okay, so I'm in momentum, and they forget about pipeline, they forget about foundation, right? Now, once you're in foundation and you have a rock solid foundation, then it's about pipeline, and then you jump to momentum, right? So it's not a rung of the ladder that we leave behind, in other words, right? So you're in foundation and pipeline right now, Donna, right? We're constantly improving our knowledge, skills, mindset, and habits, right? We're constantly in practice mode. Now, let's agree that practice isn't something we did, gang. It's something we do on a consistent and repetitive basis to really sharpen our skills. When you know what to say, you know how to say it. Guys, as long as you say it to enough people, which those are the three things you can control, right? You can control what you say, you can control how you say it, and you can control how many people you say it to. So you're in foundation and you're in pipeline. And here's my question for you. What are you willing to do this week, Donna, to get one step closer to the next phase of the model?
Yes, I've thought about that and taken steps to really solidify my systems so that I can have my systems working with me to get to that momentum phase.
I love it. Okay. So which system are you going to tackle first? See, building a business, building a systems-oriented business, kind of like eating an elephant, right, gang? And you've all heard the expression, how do you eat an elephant? Of course, it's one bite at a time, right? Yet, if you were truly going to eat an elephant, as disgusting as that sounds, it really wouldn't matter where you started. You guys with me? It wouldn't matter where you started. You could start at the toe, you could start at the tail, you could start at the ear. It wouldn't matter. Yet in business development, I think it does matter where you start. So Donna, tell me, what is one system that you're going to focus on this week?
So this week I am going to focus on the 30, 33, 36 touch point with the email component to my pipeline.
Fantastic. To nurture that sphere of influence in the entire database at the same time, such that when they think real estate, they think you, yes?
Yes.
I think it's fantastic. You know, one of the other systems I'd encourage you guys to really focus on this week is the one we're about to go through, the 20-point buyer presentation. Gang, I can't tell you how many clients I've had in the past that said, you know, my conversion rate went from 5% to 100% when I used your presentation. See, so many times agents show up to a buyer presentation, initial counseling session, if they in fact do that. And sadly, they don't know exactly what they're going to say. Now, we've all heard the phrase, meet people where they're at. Here's the challenge. A lot of people, they don't know where they're at. They just don't. So you've got to guide them to where you want them to be and then lead them to where they want to go. I hope that makes sense. All right. So let's jump into the 20-point buyer presentation. I've got several goals during the presentation. Number one is to build rapport, to gain loyalty. Okay. Teach them the rules of the game. Eliminate the intimidation factor. Okay. I don't know about you. I remember the first time I had $1 million+ buyer who came into the office for this initial counseling session. And I got to tell you, I was nervous. I could tell my pulse rate was up. My blood pressure was up. Heck, I might have even trembled a little bit here and there because I just wanted this deal. I needed this deal so badly that I got that commission breath. I didn't know exactly what I was going to say and how I was going to say it. So as a direct result, I became a little bit nervous. Now, once I refined this system, man, I'll sit across the table from a $50 million buyer and I'll be, just cool as a cucumber. I'll just be as happy as I could be because I know what to say and I know how to say it through practice. Through practice. All right. We're going to inspire referrals and we're going to get a lot of them. We're going to show fewer properties to every buyer before they purchase. And we're going to get the agency agreement signed every time that you want it signed. You guys ready to go? Now I'm going to digress a little bit. Objections and challenges. When should we handle them? What do you guys think? A lot of you are thinking right away, immediately, respond quickly. Well, I want you to look at it through a different lens. I want you to maybe change your mindset just a little bit here as it relates to objections and challenges when working with buyers. And that is, when should we handle them? Well, we should handle them before they become objections and challenges, right? So if you can do a preemptive strike, you could head it off at the pass. If you could cover the objection before it becomes an objection, well, then you're ahead of the game. See, one thing I've learned working with buyers, it's nothing more and nothing less than simply setting and then managing the appropriate expectations. Now, when they understand the expectations, when you've educated them, then they turn into really good buyers, and the buyer side of your business becomes smooth, it becomes fluid, it becomes easy to manage. Now, where do you want to invest your time? I'm going to digress. I'm going to tell a quick story. Many of you may have heard this in the past because it's one of my favorite stories. It was one of the biggest epiphanies of my entire career. And that was, and many of you can relate. My wife came to me one day and said, honey, you haven't taken a day off for like 10 months. And it was true. And it was painful because I was investing so much of my life into my business to really set that trajectory, which was necessary at that time. And yet here I am in my early 20s, and my bride of about 18 months comes to me and says, you haven't taken a day off for 10 months. Now, I knew why she was doing this because it was her birthday coming up the next Sunday. And I said, I know why you're bringing it up. I know it's your birthday on Sunday. And yes, I'm going to take the entire day off. In fact, I've got a plan. We're going to sleep in the morning. We're going to drive up to Aspen. We lived in Denver, Colorado at the time. We're going to stay at the Ritz-Carlton. We were going to get a nice brunch together and just, kind of tour around the city a little bit and just have fun. And so I told everybody at the office, at this time we'd start leveraging through people. We had built a team, and it was crazy times, I'm telling you, where I was working, 12, 14 hours a day in most cases. And we increased our production to over 400 transactions per year eventually. Now, with that said, I told everybody in the office, do not call me, do not page me. Rob, you can relate. These are the days of pagers, right? I said, don't call me, don't page me. I'm taking the entire day off. We're staying the night up there. I'm not going to be home until Monday evening at best. Okay, so don't call me, don't bother me. And so here comes Sunday. It's her birthday. And we do, like we said, we're going to sleep in a little bit, and it's 9 o'clock in the morning, the phone rings, the house phone. Now this, again, Rob, this is before the days of caller ID, okay? And so I answer it thinking it's one of my wife's friends or a family member calling to wish her a happy birthday. And guess who it is? Of course, it's the weekend call coordinator from my office telling me that he just took the most motivated call from a buyer prospect that he's ever taken, and they need to see this property today. So I learned about which property it was. And by the way, this was like an $850,000 listing, which back in those days was like a $3 or $4 million sale today. It was a brand new listing. The market was hot. And he said that it's like they want to reach their hand through the phone line, Shon, and they want to sign a contract on this property right now. They just need to see the inside of it. Can you show it to him today? I said, absolutely not. It's my wife's birthday. I promised her I'm going to take the day off. So I said, give me their name and phone number. I'll give him a quick call, explain my circumstance, and I'll show it to him tomorrow evening. And so anyhow, I take the name and number down, hang up the phone, pick up the phone and call the person. And sure enough, you guys, these people were exceptionally motivated. I could barely get my first and last name out of my mouth. I call him back and say, hi, it's Shon Kokoszka. Oh, Shon, thank you so much for calling us back. Shon, we're going to buy this house. We just need to see it. Can you please walk us through it at 10 o'clock this morning? So I set the appointment. 10 o'clock that morning. And I turned to my wife and we had that talk. Now, if you've been doing this long enough, you understand that talk. It's very uncomfortable. Yet my wife has always been very supportive of my goals and my ambitions and in business and everything else. So she said, it's okay. I said, honey, here's how it's going to go. I'm going to jump in the shower right now, leave the house by 9:30. It's a half-hour drive over to this property. I'll show the property. It'll take 15 minutes to show the house. I'll write the contract. That'll take another 15 minutes. I'll be back on the road, back toward the house by 10:30. And, we'll leave by 11. We'll head up to Aspen. We'll have a great, great time. So I did just that. I jump in the shower, get in my car, 30-minute drive over to the property. I pull up, they're not there. So I go in and I unlock the house. I, obviously turn on the lights. I'm getting it staged up. Well, now it's 10:10, 10:15. They haven't shown up yet. Thank God they showed up about 17 minutes after the top of the hour, because I was only going to wait around like another 2 or 3 hours. Then I was cutting them off. You know what I mean? Yet have you ever had the perfect showing, you guys? I mean, the perfect showing, where they step into the foyer and they're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. It's like a 10 on a scale from 0 to 10. They step into the living room. Now it's a 12 on a scale from 0 to 10. They step into the kitchen. It couldn't be better. It's like right hand, right glove, perfect fit. This was the house for them. And they were so excited, and I was so excited. And, they're asking me questions. I'm giving them short, direct answers as I'm looking at my watch thinking, oh my gosh, I've been here over an hour now. We stayed in that property for an hour and a half. I finally get them to the front door. I finally get them out of the front door, and I lock up the house. We're walking down the driveway. I said, well, you guys like this home, don't you? They said, yeah. I said, you want this home, right? They said, we do. I said, well, why don't you buy it? Well, he turns to her and she turns to him, and he calls, turns back to me and says, okay, Shon, we'll have our real estate agent give you a call. Now, we've all been in situations like that. Yet whose fault was that? Guilty, right? It was 100% my fault. I let their motivation take control of my actions. Now, sometimes that's appropriate. This time it was not. By the way, how do you think my drive home went? It was a 30-minute drive. I will tell you, and if you haven't met Mick yet, let me introduce you. Mick is an acronym. It stands for My Inner Cynic. It's that internal dialogue that we all have with ourselves, that internal voice. And man, I got to tell you, Mick beat the crap out of me that day. And it was on that drive home that I made the decision that I am not going to be that agent who just spins their wheels and services people without an agency agreement. This is right about the time, Rob, that agency agreements became kind of mainstream at this point, or were starting to become. Most agents, they get a signed buyer agency agreement, yet when do they get it signed, you guys? At the same time, they're writing the buy-sell agreement. You with me? You certainly wouldn't list somebody's house, put a sign in their front yard, create brochures and do photography and Matterport virtual tours and put it in MLS without a signed listing contract, would you? So why would you work with a buyer without a signed buyer agency agreement? And that's what I was doing. And I justified it by saying, well, it doesn't cost me any money. It's just my time. Then I realized that time is the only inventory that we have in this business. I'll say it again. Time is the only inventory we have in this business, and where we choose to invest it will really determine our level of production, our level of income, the amount of families we get to help buy, sell, or invest in real estate. So I really want you to think about, where do you want to spend your time? So I would have much rather spent my time driving up to Aspen with my wife, but instead I don't know. And so many times we say, buyers are liars. We've all heard that phrase before, right? Now, I think we need to qualify our buyers so we don't accuse them of being liars. So moving on, I'm going to walk you through the 20-point buyer presentation. Excuse me. Now, what I would do is I would set in office appointments. By the way, this was an experiment that almost failed because I was not really proficient at setting in office appointments. I was not really clear on my unique value proposition. Therefore, I struggled with setting in office appointments. Now, many of you might be, say, with EXP or Real or whatever the case is, and you don't have a physical office, and that's okay. Yet, my input to you is, don't meet them at the property, okay? Don't meet them at the property, because their energy, their focus is on the property and not you. It's really hard to give a buyer presentation when you're inside somebody else's house. I hope that makes sense. So in a perfect world, you would do this via Zoom to save their time and your time. You could just walk them through this. By the way, this is one of the new buyer surveys that they would complete. Now, in a secondary position, okay, Zoom would be ideal, right? Or meet them in a professional environment. Maybe it's your mortgage company or your title company's office. They'll be glad to give you their conference room, I promise you. Maybe it's at Regis. Maybe it's at a Starbucks or something like that, a coffee shop. Perhaps it's even at their house, their current residence, where you'll meet them. Yet the last option is to meet them at a house, okay? For the first time. Meet them in a professional environment or on Zoom and walk them through this presentation. They will enthusiastically sign your buyer agency agreement once you've done that. Now, my system was they would meet me at the office. So they'd come in, the call coordinator would hand them a clipboard, just like at the doctor's office, right? And the first thing they would see is the new buyer survey. It asks, how did they get to know us? Where did they come from? By the way, I put many things up there that we did not do because I wanted to appear to be larger than life. I hope that makes sense. Like you'll see television ads. We never advertised on television, and yet you'd be shocked at how many people actually checked that box. We put radio ads. We never did radio, yet a lot of people would check the box. So we wanted to know where'd they come from. The new buyer survey would ask all the qualifying questions that needed to be asked, meaning on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being an immediate need to buy a home, and 1 meaning that is, I'm just curious, how would they rate themselves? They would just circle one of those numbers. So all of the qualifying questions were asked on the new buyer survey. By the way, the third page of that is what I call the magic question. See, our prospects don't care about us. They care about how they feel when they're with us. And the magic questions help me really determine what is their dominant behavior style. For example, if your best friend were to describe you out of the 4 choices, which would they choose? Number 1 is direct and to the point. If they circled number 1, then I knew that they were a D-type behavior, where they want to go from point A to point Z as fast as humanly possible, and they don't care how many dead bodies are in their way, right? Or that they leave behind. Natural born salesperson, they would be the I or influential category, where we're not going to ignore social boundaries. And we're going to focus really on the social aspects of the relationship. Number 3, warm, sincere, and friendly. That's the S-type behavior. Steady, or the relator type behavior, where they're going to be slower in decision-making. You know, they base decisions solely on feelings. They're more kinesthetic than they are auditory or visual. And then the cautious and perfectly accurate is the C-type behavior, where, have you ever had a buyer show up with like an Excel spreadsheet they put together based on those homes that have sold in this neighborhood or that neighborhood? It outlines average price per square foot, average days on market, average list price to sales price ratio. They've done all the homework. That's the C-type behavior. And with C-type, of course, you have to be really diligent in getting all the information that you can possibly get your hands on to provide to them. So again, they don't care about us. They care about how they feel when they're with us. So what you get to do is you get to become that chameleon that's going to really jive with all of these different personality styles. See, we all have all 4 types within our behavior, and yet you're going to accentuate certain aspects of your behavior based on the individual's behavior themselves. So the magic question just answers that for you. Also on the clipboard was what we called the soft sell buyer agency agreement. It's basically a 1-page loyalty agreement, outlines all the positive things about buyer agency. The buyer partner signs it at the bottom, the client signs it, just kind of warms them up to signing the actual buyer agency agreement. Then we asked, are you an A, B, or C buyer? So in the center section of this form, you can see A buyer, and we give a definition. What is an A buyer? What is a B buyer? What is a C buyer? And at the bottom, it says, I've read the above and believe I am a blank buyer, A, B, or C. So again, in terms of qualifying motivation, it really doesn't get much easier than this document, no doubt. So they would then be given a buyer workbook. This is the front page of the workbook, or the cover, if you will. And the next 2 pages are like fill in the blank. So as I go through the presentation, they would fill in the blank. What this does is it engages them, you guys. It engages them. They're constantly writing things down, and they remember more of what they wrote down versus me just kind of spewing the information at them. When I first started doing this, they didn't write anything down. And I looked at them about halfway through the presentation, and it was like deer in the headlights, right? They're not even paying attention. It's going in one ear and out the other, and it's not sticking. So by getting them to write it down, they have a solid lead behind. If they have questions, they can go back and look at the different points. And by the way, there are 20 points to this presentation. So 2 pages of fill in the blank, 2 pages of taking notes on the homes that you see, becoming pre-approved as part of their workbook as well, everything that the lender's going to need. And I give them a PI calculator so they can calculate their own payments. Now, a PI calculator means that at 4% for every $1,000 they borrow, it costs them $4.77 per month. This also helps me kind of narrow it down to the effective cost of home ownership. I don't know if you guys have ever been in a situation like I was, where you have a buyer and seller and they're arguing over $1,000 in the purchase price, and you got to bridge that gap. A lot of agents would just say, well, I'll just throw in $1,000 in my commission toward the deal. Let's get it done. Rather, go back to the buyer and say, so you really want to lose this home over $4.77 per month? Really? I mean, that's the cost of a Happy Meal. And that wouldn't make your family very happy, would it? All right. So PI calculator. And then once they went under contract, my client care manager for buyers would contact them and help them complete the last page of this document. It just outlines all the deadlines and dates of the agreement. They were instructed to tear it out of the book, put it up in their fridge or put it someplace that they could get their hands on it quickly. It eliminated a lot of unnecessary phone calls to the office. All right, so let's get into the presentation. So once they came to the office, they filled out the clipboard. Then the the call coordinator would bring them a leather-bound beverage and snack menu. So they would then place their order with the call coordinator. They would go back to the kitchen. They would bring it into the conference room and have it staged, have it all set up for them. And then they would be invited back to the conference room. So I've got all this information on them. I've never met them face-to-face yet. However, they're going to sit down in the conference room with their snacks, with their buyer workbook. And up on the screen, they saw we're buying a home. All right. So I would get to know them a little bit with the Ford technique: family, occupation, recreation, dreams. I would make the conversation all about them, and I was just question-based. I wanted to know about their family. How many in your family? Do you have other family members who live close by? Occupation. So by the way, if you turn to the female, let's say it's a male-female relationship, and you turn to the female and you say, hey, what do you do for a living? You might have inadvertently stuck your foot in your mouth, okay? Maybe she's a homemaker. So I would turn to the female and I'd say, do you work outside the home? I think it's okay for the male in a male-female relationship to ask him, hey, what do you do for a living? So family, occupation, recreation, what do you guys do for fun? Do you have any hobbies? Are your kids in any sports if they had kids? Which, by the way, I also had a buyer agency agreement for children. And it was simple things on the buyer agency agreement. It was 1 page. And it would say things like, I promise to listen to my parents as we're looking at homes. I promise not to touch other children's toys when looking at the home. I mean, it was just simple little bullet point things, and they would sign it. We gave them a crayon or crayons and a coloring book, and they would sign it with their crayon. And it was, it's that whole Ray Kroc theory, you guys, that not the founder of McDonald's, but I guess the franchisor of McDonald's. If you get the kids, you get the parents, right? So we had a listing agreement for children. We had a buyer agreement for their children, and they would sign it along with the parents, right? So this is what they'd see on the screen. They have their workbook. Remember, it's fill in the blank. And every time a word or a number would appear in the presentation, they were instructed to simply fill in the blank. So the first blank they filled in is salesperson versus consultant. So they'd write in the word consultant. And then I've got 24 scripts that go along with this system. And the script at this point was, Yeah, I believe that nobody likes to be high pressured into making a buying decision. Would you agree with me? See, that's why at the Kokoszka Group, we have fully committed to the consultative approach to selling real estate. I just present you with the options, and you make an educated and informed decision as to which home you'd like to purchase. So I don't want you to view me as a salesperson. I'm your consultant through this role. Does that make sense? So buyer's market versus seller's market, we'd have a quick discussion about what that looks like, what it feels like in that day's market. Then we'd get into the average list price to sales price ratio. So I think we've all been guilty of working with maybe a difficult buyer. You had to show them 20 or 25 homes. They finally narrow it down to the one that they want to purchase after 3.5 or 4 weeks of looking. And what kind of an offer do they want to make? A lowball offer that you know is not going to be accepted. So again, we don't need practice writing contracts. We want to write contracts that actually stick. I hope that makes sense. So with that said, it's up to us to educate them on what's going on in the marketplace. For example, average list price to sales price ratio is 99.2%. Let's say you're looking at the median price of $425,000, and I just go in and modify this based on their search criteria and what price range they were comfortable with prior to the presentation. So let's do the math. The average seller is going to come down about $3,400, and that's it. Now, I share this information with you right now because if you think you could come in and offer 10, 12, 15,000 less than the request price and actually expect to buy that home, well, this is what the market is doing. Now, I don't make the market, I simply interpret the market. So I have a very direct question for you right now. That is, if I found you a home at $425,000 and the seller's only willing to come down to $421,600, is that going to be okay with you? So what am I doing here, guys? I'm setting an expectation. Now I'll give them a little bit of real estate training 101 here. See, listing inventory is down 36% from the same time last year. And when the inventory is down, well, demand generally goes up. When demand goes up, well, prices also go up. So I want to commend you on your timing of purchasing this property, and you're always going to commend them on the timing of their purchase. Now, pre-approval for your financing. First off, I want to talk through the benefits to you as a buyer to obtain not only your pre-approval, yet your desktop underwritten approval, meaning the lender's already approved you, your finances, they've already viewed your tax returns, your credit score, all of that. They've approved you, and all they have to then do is approve the property that you're going to purchase. And they'll do that through an appraisal, of course, and essentially, this turns you into a cash buyer. Now, if they push back at all here, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a script that I call the seller's shoes script. So Mr. and Ms. Buyer, let me place you in the seller's shoes just for a moment. And let's just say that you're the seller and you just got a call last night from your employer, and they said, hey, we're relocating you out to Los Angeles, California, and we need you there in 3 weeks. So one of the first things you do is you call your realtor and say, listen, I need to sell this house. I need to sell it fast. Let's get it on the market. So you list it a little bit below the average sales price within your neighborhood, and the market realizes what a substantial value it is. So the first day on the market, you receive 2 offers. Let's say the first offer is an all-cash offer. They can close in 3 weeks. Now, the second offer, they heard about the first offer. They really want to buy that home. So they offered you $5,000 more than the request price, where the cash offer was, say, $2,000 less than the request price. Now, here's the thing with the second buyers, they need a mortgage. They haven't seen a lender. Heck, even their realtor doesn't know if they can actually qualify for this purchase. Now, understanding you're under time pressure, which deal are you going to take? Are you going to take the sure deal for cash? Or are you going to take a chance and pray and hope for an extra $7,000 that these people can qualify? Probably the cash offer. Would you agree? See, having your desktop underwritten approval essentially turns you into that cash buyer. It's going to save you money, definitely give you leverage in a multiple offer situation. Now, here's the best part. It gives you the confidence knowing that every home that I show you, you can just buy it. And doesn't that feel good? Now, generally speaking, I would have already had them speak with my lender. The lender's already filled out the 1003, pulled credit report, and they've offered a pre-approval letter. Okay. Now, in the event that I got the call on a Friday evening and we set it up for Saturday morning at 10 o'clock, that I would invite the lender into the meeting. I'd excuse myself and allow the lender then to do their job to fill out the 1003, pull credit report, give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Either way, I'm going to take them through the presentation. Now, let's talk about the benefits of buyer agency. Now, 100% of my clients choose buyer agency. As I said, the average list price to sales price ratio currently is 99.2%, where my averages are 97.1%. So I'm going to save you a lot of money in the negotiation. In fact, 70% of my time is spent working with buyers. I'm able to see over 200 homes per month. Therefore, I know the market better than anyone. Let me tell you about our buyer instant notification system, where you'll be instantly notified via text message and email of every new listing that hits the market that matches your custom search criteria. So nothing is going to slip through the cracks. Now, here's the best part of buyer agency is that I can answer you in a paragraph rather than a sentence. Now, let me tell you what I mean by that. If it's a divorce, pre-foreclosure, a distress sale of any kind, it's my job as your agent to dig up that information, share it with you, and I know you'll agree with the statement that information is power in negotiations. Are you guys with me on this? And the only thing that I need to get you the information is an agency agreement, which means that I solely represent you and your family in your purchase. All right, so let's talk about how I get paid. Now, all of my fees are negotiated in the contract. All brokers have access to the same information, and the biggest difference in brokers is the speed in which they can get you that information. So you can sense here that I'm kind of glossing over this whole agency payment relationship, right? They might go a little bit deeper. They may have done their research, and they probably have, within our settlement and what that's going to look like. And if that comes up, I'll address it then. Yet the bottom line is, with representation, I'm going to be able to save you more money due to my negotiating skills. See, not all agents are created equal. I mean, for example, if I had to jump up right now and run to my mailbox, I could do that, but it doesn't make me an Olympian. You with me? And top companies invest hundreds of thousands of dollars in the best negotiators because they're the best negotiators. So let's talk a little bit about for sale by owners and how this works. If you see a sign in somebody's front yard, if you see an ad on or a page on fsbo.com or Zillow or whatever the case is, I want you to call me first. Now, the reason for that is I'm going to negotiate with that for sale by owner so that they'll pay my commission and you can have professional representation. See, for sale by owners either pay an attorney or a real estate agent to draft and negotiate the contract, yet attorneys charge by the what? That's right, by the hour. Let me tell you a quick story about a family that I helped years ago. They thought they were doing the right thing before they had met me. They saw a for sale by owner sign. They called the phone number, set up a showing, and the seller walked them through the property. Guess what? They fell in love with the property. Now, because this is the largest transaction of their life at this point, they decided to hire an attorney to write and negotiate the contract and make sure it was all done right. Yet, once they got it under contract, the very first step is to do a home inspection. Now, the inspector uncovered significant foundation damage and the seller was unwilling to repair it. So they had to terminate the deal. Now, not only did they not get the home that they wanted to purchase, they also got stuck with a $4,000 attorney bill on top of it. See, I'm commission-based, meaning I only get paid when you own the home that you want to buy. Does that make sense? So if you see a for sale by owner, will you call me first? Let me negotiate my commission. We'll go over, take a look at it together. We'll get the inspection done. And if the inspection turns out bad, well, you don't owe anybody anything. Does that sound good? All right. So new home builders. Now, builders generally pay all of my fees as well. Here's what I want to do. I want to give you a stack of open house guest passes. And here's what it looked like. On the front, it's business card size, by the way. On the front, it just simply said that, open house guest pass. On the back, it said, I'm exclusively represented by the Kokoszka Group, and any questions about my needs should be directed to Shon Kokoszka. Please call. And there was my phone number. I don't know if many of you have ever experienced having a buyer go out on a weekend and stumble into a new home sales office, register without you, and then the builder doesn't want to pay your fee because you didn't introduce them to the property. They say, well, you're not the procuring cause, therefore we're not going to pay your fee. By using the open house guest pass and getting to know these on-site salespeople in your local market area is going to curb that dramatically. Now, the benefit to the buyer in using the open house guest pass is that the on-site salesperson or the realtor holding a resale home open, well, they're going to call me and not you. And you don't want every realtor following up with you from our local market area, do you? See, the benefit to you is professional representation. And remember that on-site salesperson or the realtor holding an open house while they represent the seller in the transaction. All right, so let's talk about the fun stuff, shopping for your new home. The average buyer looks at 5 homes before finding the right one. Now, this might be less than what you'd be accustomed to, yet remember, I get to see over 200 homes every single month. Chances are I've already seen the inside of the home that you're going to purchase. So it's my job to show you the best homes first. A lot of agents are going to take you out and show you, 4 or 5 properties that they know you're not going to like, and then they show you one that they think you might like, and then you're like, oh yeah, I want to buy it. See, that's manipulation. Now, one of the ways I'll know if you're interested in purchasing one of the homes that I'm going to show you today is I'm simply going to ask you if you'd like to buy it. Would that be okay with you? And by the way, if I forget to ask, will you remind me? See, I know we've all been in that situation where you know that the buyers love the home and there's that gut gauge question that you need to ask. Do you want to buy it? And we fail to ask the question because we want to be just that sweet, kind person, not that pressure type salesperson. Yet, again, when we set expectations, that one of the ways I'll know if you're interested in purchasing one of the homes that I'll show you today is I'm simply going to ask you if you'd like to buy it. Would that be okay with you? So you get them on the inside of the first home. So you're finished with the showing. So what do you guys think? Do you want to buy it? They say, well, no. Okay, then you get direct, honest, immediate feedback. Take them to the second home. Do you want to buy it? No, because of this, because of that. Now, when you take them into a home that you know that they want to buy, here's my input. Don't ask. Have you ever wanted a buyer to ask you to ask them to buy the house? Shon, are you going to ask us? Do you guys want to buy the home? They say yes. And you go and you draft up the contract and get your electronic signatures. Now, the most important key to finding the right home quickly, well, it's your feedback. So when you go into a home, I want you to open up with me. I promise you, I don't live there. I didn't decorate it. You can't hurt my feelings, because oftentimes I learn about what you do want to buy through the contrast of what you don't want to buy. Does that make sense? So I'm just inviting that warm, friendly feeling of they can share their mind with me. Then I would pull out a blank copy of the buy-sell agreement. I would give that to them. And I said, we're going to go through the entire contract right now so that when we find the right home, you can move quickly with confidence to ensure that you get the home that you want. And gang, I would just go through the 4 major contingencies, from title to home inspection, appraisal, and loan approval. And it took me about 5 minutes to get through that section of the presentation. I would assure them that this is a standard form that's approved through the Real Estate Commission. Then I talked to them a little bit about earnest money. If you happen to be in the state of Texas or another state that requires option money, then you'll talk about that here. I would just tell them that earnest money would be around 2% of the asking price. Now, as a sidebar here, guys, one of the best negotiating strategies that you could engage with, let's say you've got a buyer that's looking to purchase around $500,000, they're going to put 50% down, encourage them to increase the amount of earnest money. It tells the seller that the buyer is very serious, and then of course write the contract to protect their earnest money and let them know how they might be able to lose it if they just backed out at the last minute or whatever the case is. But I've had $1 million cash buyers that wrote an earnest money check for $1 million. And it shows the seller, it shows the listing agent that they're very serious and this deal is going to close. Then we're going to get into the home inspection. See, once you go under contract, the next step is your home inspection. Now, The inspection, I got to tell you, is for major items only. It's not for that cracked tile in the bathtub or the grout needs to be redone. It's for safety type issues, electrical, plumbing, HVAC. It's for major items only. It's not a laundry list of honeydew items. I hope that makes sense. By the way, as another sidebar, we would offer to all of our buyers and all of our sellers 2 hours of a handyman service. So when the inspection results came back, my client care manager for buyers received them. She would then scan it. She would send it over to the buyer after speaking with our home improvement specialist, okay, our handyman. And the handyman would say, well, in 2 hours, I can get this done, that done, this done. And essentially, she would just check them off the list and scan it over to them and say, okay, our handyman's going to take care of all of these things for you. And here's the safety concerns after the fact. So how many of you guys have had a deal blow up over just stupid inspection items? Right, the seller gets on their high horse and says, well, they're not buying a brand new home. I'm not fixing this. I'm not fixing that, right? And the buyer says, well, if the seller's not going to repair those things, then I don't want to buy it. And the deal blows up. And you've wasted hours at this point. In fact, I took it further and I just said to my client care manager for buyers saying, if this deal is going to fall apart during the inspection and you can solve the issue for $1,000 or less, just write the check. I'm telling you, just write the check. I don't even want to know about it. I don't want to hear about it because I understand the time value of money. To get that buyer back in my car, have to drive them all over town again, looking at another 15 or 20 houses before they finally decide to purchase one. Well, how much time have I wasted? And how many buyers could I have served in the interim? I hope this makes sense to you guys. All right, moving on. The appraisal is the next step. The cost is paid for by the buyer, averages about $525 per appraisal. It could be more, it could be less, depending on which property you purchase. Like when I purchased my property, the appraisal was $2,500. Highway robbery, if you ask me. Yet the best part is that you won't overpay for the property. I'm going to write the contract in such a way that the appraisal provision does in fact apply. And if the appraiser cannot justify the value, then we'll go back to the negotiating table with the seller. All right, loan approval means you have full loan commitment and frankly, a reason to celebrate because this is generally the final condition of most contracts. All right, next, we're going to go to closing. This is where you're going to get the keys to your new property. All of our time and efforts will have paid off at that point. You'll bring cashier's check, blah, blah, blah. Just tell them what's going to happen at the closing. Next, I want to brag a little bit about my team, if that's okay. See, you'll always be working with a specialist. Now, the benefits to you are knowledge, availability, and communication. See, I spend 70 of my time, in fact, dare I say I specialize in working with buyers. So when that perfect home comes on the market, you're going to know about it first. You'll be the first to see it, the first to buy it. I would then brag a little bit more about the team. I would talk about our client care manager for sellers or buyers, our full-time courier. I would brag about our team. See, the traditional realtor model looks kind of like this, where the realtor is the center of the universe and they're juggling so many balls that if they drop one and go to try and pick it up, all the others are going to fall. So I saw some significant challenges with this model. I created a new one where we take you as our client and we make you the center of our universe. We surround you with a team of specialists. Now, many of you are solo agents. Maybe you don't have a team, and that's okay, because you do have a team. You could put, all you have to do is just change the names in these circles. You could put your managing broker, your title company, your mortgage company, your home inspector. And by the way, we all have a full-time courier. It's called Uber. If you need some papers delivered to an elderly client who doesn't understand how to do electronic signatures, well, just call Uber. Don't waste your time into the 80% work. Focus on the 20% work. Yet you've all got a team, and that's all I'm saying. Now, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, I've got 3 specific goals for our relationship. Number 1, I want to get you the very best price I possibly can on the home that you purchase. I want to get you there with the fewest amount of hassles as possible. And I want to do it in the time frame that you desire. Now, once I accomplish these goals, I need you to understand that I don't make my living and provide for my family off of one sale. Referrals are the lifeblood of our business. So I'm going to ask you, once we accomplish those goals, who do you know who's looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? I want you to think about all your different connection points. And when you hear of somebody, will you call me? In fact, who do you know right now who's looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate that I should be calling today? All right, added value. At the Kokoszka Group, you'll be able to use our moving truck anytime, free of charge. You don't have to put gas in it. You don't have to clean it. Our courier takes care of all of that with you and for you. So if you buy a new washer and dryer set, you need a truck, give us a call. You need to haul something to the dump, fantastic. Give us a call. If it's available, it's yours. You're going to get the entire team, our love it or leave it guarantee, which, by the way, guys, I offered this for 12 years and I never had to exercise it. Yet the love it or leave it guarantee means that anytime in the next 6 months after they purchase a home with us, if they're dissatisfied, we're going to sell it for them free of charge. Now, a couple of caveats: they have to pay the buyer agent commission if they choose to, and they have to purchase their next home through us to exercise the love it or leave it guarantee. Customer appreciation functions, discounts on all kinds of things, convenience and one-stop shopping. So Mr. and Mrs. Buyers, you can tell we take this business seriously and we take your needs seriously. So what do you think? Can I be your agent? Now, guys, they're going to enthusiastically sign your buyer agency agreement. Now, the language you put into the buyer agency agreement, I, number one, encourage you to reach out to your broker and have a conversation with them and get the language that they want inserted into the special provisions or the commission section of the buyer agency agreement. I'm not going to try and dictate how you put that in there because it's different state by state by state, no doubt. And yet they're going to sign it each and every time because now they understand the expectations. You've taken control of the conversation. You didn't just show up and just have a conversation with them about golf or fishing or snow skiing and then ask them to sign a buyer agency agreement with you. No. What you've done is you've upped the professionalism of our industry, and they're going to sense that. They're going to know that. And again, they're enthusiastically going to sign your buyer agency contract. So guys, this is one of my favorite subjects and topics. I told you that I would not meet with the buyer. I would not meet them at a house. In all cases, they would come to my office for the initial counseling session. We would determine their goals, and then we would get out and start looking at properties because we've got to set and then manage the appropriate expectations. Yet the experiment almost failed because I was not proficient at setting in-office appointments. And so through research and through just brainstorming, I developed a system that I call the ABCs: action, benefit, commitment. So once I got the buyer prospect on the phone, it didn't matter if they came through social media, if they were a sign call, if they were a sphere of influence or anything like that. Once that magic moment during our conversation had arrived, then I would bring them through the ABCs. It's action. What do you want them to do? Let's set an appointment to meet on a Zoom meeting. That's the action. Now, anytime we ask them to take an action, well, there's a question that appears in their mind. Am I right? And that's, what's in it for me? Why should I do that? So we immediately segue into the benefit. Why would somebody want to meet with you? Why would somebody want to go through an initial counseling session with you? So what are the benefits? What's in it for them? And then we segue right into the commitment. And I prefer alternative choice. Here's an example. Well, fortunately, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, in order to get you one step closer to achieving your goals, all we need to do now is simply set an appointment to meet in a Zoom meeting. I'm going to walk you through an initial counseling session. I'm going to educate you on the market. I'm going to share with you several proven negotiating strategies, and I'll be able to share my screen and show you every property that matches your unique search criteria. So tell me, when is the best time for you and I to get together on Zoom? Is it mornings or afternoons? Action first. I went benefit, benefit, benefit. Then I went to commitment, right? A, B, C. And it's really as simple as the ABCs, no doubt about that. Now, Rob had mentioned that we're going to do a brief commercial, and I promise you I'm going to keep it brief. Here at Icon Coaching, we want to help you accomplish your goals. And maybe some of you are sitting there right now saying, well, I maybe could use a little bit of help, yet I don't have the budget for coaching. And I totally get that. Trust me, I've been in those shoes before. And so what we've done is we came up with what we call results-driven coaching. Results-driven coaching. See, all of the coaching I've done since I started coaching people back in the late 90s was not results-driven. It was fee-based, right? Meaning whether you produced or not, you still had to pay for coaching. How many of you guys are a little bit frustrated with that? Anyone? My coach isn't helping me. I'm not improving my production, but I'm still going to spend $1,000 or $1,200 or $2,000 a month for my coach. Yet my production isn't increasing. So what we've done is we've set it up to where there's a small setup fee at the front end, and then there's no guarantee of payment for coaching unless you produce. Any pending contracts that you have currently, you get 100% of your commissions, less company dollar, of course. Your brokerage is company dollar, I mean. Yet any new contracts that you do under our tutelage, well then, we have a tiered model to where if you're 3 to 5 million in production, you're going to pay this much. If you're 5 to 10 million, you're going to pay this much. And each tier that goes up, then the percentage reduces. So you only pay for coaching when you close a deal. I personally call it predicated coaching. Predicated means that we don't collect any money unless you make money. Or you could call it contingency-based coaching. Now, in order to qualify for this type of coaching, you must have achieved over the last 12 months at least 3 million in total sales volume. That makes the numbers work for me. It makes the numbers work for you. If you're at all interested in that, Rob, what direction do you want them to go with that if they're interested? I mean, I could just put in my cell phone number and they can text me.
Well, no, we have a link. Dave, don't we have a link for that? Dave, there it is.
All right, Dave,
Like
way
the
to go.
schedule.
He's on top of
Now-
it.
Now, Shon, do you want to explain to them because of what's happened to your calendar here? That you're going to be fixing it, but I mean it just shows in the evening, right?
It does, yeah. So my calendar link, is that what they plugged in there?
They did, and if you want to put your phone number and let them text you, that might be better right now until you get it totally fixed.
Yep, you got it. Yeah, so
And
scheduling
guys,
link
just
that they
let you know,
posted, we learned
Shon
that you
is
can
gonna
only
put-
schedule in the evening hours. So if you'd prefer not to do it in the evening, you can just text me. There's my cell phone number, guys. Feel free to reach out to me directly. Now, if you're below 3 million in sales volume over the last 12 months, we do have different options for you. So feel free to text me as well. Like, let's say you're brand new to real estate.
I was going to put my
maybe you're in
text
a
in
dry
there.
spell. I'm sorry?
I was going to put my text for all of those that don't qualify. I was going to put my text in there. All of those that qualified, let them text you for their free coaching call. You get a free coaching call with Shon if you text him and you qualify. If you don't qualify, then text me because I will call you and get a meeting with you with other options that can help you out. And our goal is to get you to that 3 million quickly so that you do qualify.
Absolutely. And some of your higher producers online, if you're above 30 million in sales volume, then our fee is minimal in terms of a gross commission percentage, which, by the way, is totally tax deductible. It's considered a referral fee, and we'll pay a company dollar based on referral fees collected by our coaches. So happy to do that. Let's stop with the commercial and let's talk about you and what you need. Do you have questions? Do you have an agenda topic that you'd like to cover? Do you have concerns about the NAR settlement? What's on your mind?
Ronnie?
I see Ronnie's hand just went up. Take it away, Ronnie.
Hey, how you doing, Shon? And Coach Rob, how you doing?
Hey,
So,
Ronnie.
I just want to say this. I mean, I'm not paid to say this, but over 12 and a half years ago, Shon taught me this presentation. And the one thing that I've kept in my mind ever since was the only inventory a buyer agent has is their time. And it speaks volumes, and it does. I still use the 20-point buyer presentation I've been waiting for Shon to come on because I wanted the updated slide of all my fees are paid for. The original said the seller, and I said, "Oh my God, I can't say that no more." And I went
Can't say that
and
anymore.
chopped
No.
it up. I chopped it up and said, "May be paid by the seller." But now I got the clarity of negotiated in the contract. So thank
Yes.
you so
And
much for that.
no, it's my pleasure, of course. And I think this is a really positive change, you guys. I wouldn't be scared of this at all. If you are nervous about it, if you're intimidated by it, don't be. This is a positive change for our industry. It's going to force agents to finally get signed buyer agency agreements before they start showing homes. You with me on that, Ronnie?
Yes, and one thing people have to understand, your time. You have to ask yourself, what are you worth? And Shon, I'll be truthful. In my market center, I teach this that your course. I don't give it to them because I know that's forbidden. But anyway, I teach them about it. I show them, and then I explain to them. You have to ask yourself, how much are you worth? What is your time worth? And I use the similarity of, well, the average commission in Central Florida is around $10,000. That means I'm worth $10,000 an hour. And if I live and die by that, I'll stop making the stupid mistakes. And that's what we have to all realize now more than ever, because some of us are going to fall into the trap and work for free, and shame on us for doing that. So we have to do that.
No doubt. I think another positive change is that now it allows us to put in the contract our commission amount and to negotiate the commission. See, if the market continues to soften, maybe in your market area, the average co-op commission to a buyer agent would be, say, 2.5%. If the market continues to soften, you might find a listing, a seller who's been on the market for 7, 8, 9 months, and they're going to give you a 5% commission because you can negotiate it in the contract now. It's no longer that you're just told, here's what we're going to pay if you bring us a buyer. It gives you an opportunity to really negotiate and get what you're worth in that deal. Okay. Okay, Soledad, I love your question. On average, how much should my production increase with your coaching? Now, there's many factors that come into play there, and I wish I could give you an exact number. It really is dependent upon your work ethic and your ability to understand these fresh and new cutting edge concepts that will allow you to apply leverage to your business model to increase your production. See, many people come to us for coaching once they've hit that natural ceiling of achievement, where they're stuck at that 25 to 30 transactions a year. They can't seem to get beyond that because they can't seem to create another 3 or 4 hours in the workday. I hope that makes sense. So they just keep bumping up against this glass ceiling, bumping up against it. And when they apply our coaching models to apply leverage to their current system without increasing the amount of time that they're investing in their work life, they're going to find a massive increase in production. I could tell you story after story. Like Todd Denman, we had him on a webinar last week. Many of you were there. And he came to me at 10 million in sales volume. And in his market, that was about 10 transactions per year. And in just 3.5 years, he's going to close over 300 million in sales volume. So guys, it's varied across the board, and it's based on your work ethic, your ability to take massive action. I'm not saying massive time, just massive action, and speed of implementation, right? So you've got to be a good decision maker if you choose to engage in our coaching program. And what I mean by that is that you're ready, willing, and able to make quick decisions when you have all the facts. Also, it depends on if the individual is coachable. What does coachable mean to you guys? See, to me, it means that you're willing to implement new strategies and tactics, provided you agree that it makes solid business sense. That you're willing to be accountable, to where you show up to these coaching calls on a weekly basis that are done live on Zoom, and the first thing the coach is going to do is ask you, did you get this done? Then they're going to ask for a quick update, what's happened over the course of the last 7 days, and then they're going to help you with your business planning. So our system is really quite simple. It's 4 steps, and let me just outline this to you guys and take away from it what you can. whether you choose to engage with us or not, it starts with an exercise that I call ESTTN. It stands for expectation setting to the now. Now, this is where, and when I do this in a seminar environment, I'll just tell everybody, hey, don't hit the person to your left, but take your left arm, extend it all the way to the left, and your left hand represents, here's where I'm at today. Take your right arm, extend it all the way to the right. Your right hand represents, here's where I choose to be someday. And I'm talking in excess of 5 years down the road. So in 7 years, here's what I want my life to look like. Now, once we identify, here's where I'm at today. Again, we do that without judgment whatsoever. I mean, I don't care if you're at the bottom of the bottom of the bottom. You have no pending contracts, no upcoming listings, no active listings. I don't care. Let's just get real and right about that, because with aggressive action in 90 days, it's going to totally change. And so getting real and right about where you're at today and where you choose to be in the future. Now, the shortest distance between any 2 points is what? Straight line, right? Yet, do we live our life in a straight line? Talk to me. Very rarely. Now, we end up making the next logical decision. So rather than working this straight line, what we do is we bounce up, we go down, we go left, we go right, and we just kind of hover around the center. And it's the complexity of life that causes us to do that. And it's lack of clarity around this someday vision. Now, once you understand your someday vision, what are the benchmarks? What is that yardstick that you're going to use to measure your success? Maybe you're with EXP and it's how many agents in your revenue share organization and how much residual and passive income you're earning. Maybe you're just hell-bent and focused on becoming the number one agent in your market area. So how many agents are you going to have on your team? How many markets are you going to service? What's your sales volume going to look like someday? What's your GCI, your NCI? What is all of that going to look like someday? Now, based on that someday vision, let's say it's 7 years down the road. Here's what I want my life to look like. Where must you be in the next 5 years to be on track to accomplish that someday vision? For example, let's say in 7 years, you want 100 rental properties. Maybe that's what you want. And by the way, success is getting what you want, not what I think you should want. Yet understanding what you want, and I'll help you get there. I promise you that. Yet in 7 years, I want 100 rental properties. Well, it might make sense that in 5 years, I own about 80 rental properties, right? So based on your 5-year benchmarks, where must you be in the next 3 years? Based on the 3-year benchmarks, once you accomplish those, it makes the 5-year benchmarks easier. It makes the someday vision easier. But based on the 3-year, where must you be in the next 12 months? And that's where we're going to build an annual business plan together. Based on the 12-month benchmarks, where do you need to be in 6 months? The next quarter, the next month, the next week, today, or even right now? What is that first logical step along that straight line to accomplish that someday vision? And we've got clarity, you guys. Clarity is power. In absence of clarity, there's complexity. And complexity is the enemy of clarity. With clarity, knowing what to do, when to do it, who's going to do it with you or for you, guys, there's nothing that's going to stop you. So the second step of our formula, so we start with the reverse engineering. Second step is we build an annual business plan around your 12-month benchmarks. I call this the ETA. It stands for expectation, targets, and actions. It is a one-page, simple business plan. At the top of the page, we outline your expectation. So what is your sales volume going to look like? How many transactions? What's your GCI going to look like? Your NCI? Maybe you want to build revenue share. How many agents do you want to add to your first level, right? We're going to outline all of these expectations in a one-page, simple annual business plan. Then we're going to break it down to 3 to 5 different target positions. So target number 1, let's say I wanted to close, I'm just going to use round numbers. Let's say I want to close 100 transactions. Target number 1 is going to be around listings because listings are leverage, right? And I'd encourage you to be a little bit heavy on the listing side of this business where maybe you're 60-40 split. So target number 1 is to close 60 listings. Now targets, by definition, are interim expectations that are measurable, yet they're not grounded in any specific action. Many things must happen for the target to be accomplished. So target 1, I want to close 60 listings. I think you would agree that there are several actions that must be taken for you to close 60 listings. So we're going to outline 3 to 5 different actions that you're going to do on a consistent, repetitive basis. And then on the right margin of this one-page simple business plan, there are 2 columns. The first column is by who. So who's going to do that with you or for you? And maybe you're a solo agent. Your name's going to be all over the who category, and that's okay. That's where we all start. And then the next column is by when. Is it a daily task? Is it a weekly task? Is it something you do once a month or twice a month? Is it a one-time action that once it's done, you just cross it off the list? So again, by who and by when, 3 to 5 actions under each target. Target 2 would be the balance. I want to close 40 buyers. So what are 3 to 5 actions you're going to take in order to close 40 buyers? Target 3 is about leverage, models, systems, technology, and people. We're going to outline the actions of the things that are missing from your current strategy, and we'll put deadlines to all of these things. Okay, then the third step is to take your annual business plan and break that down into a monthly and then weekly business plan. This is a form that I call the ATA. It stands for Accountability for Targets and Actions. So you look at your annual business plan, you see everything that's due, say, in the month of August, and you're going to add that to the August section of your ATA. Outline your monthly tasks. Who's going to help you do it? By when will it be accomplished? And then I want you to imagine the lower section of this form. It has 4 columns, and at the top of each column, it's week 1, 2, 3, and 4. And you take your higher level monthly tasks and you break it down into week by week actions. Now, this is a monthly document that we do on Google Sheet, to where I can share my screen, you can share your screen, and the changes happen in real time between the two of us. Now, what this does is it provides massive clarity. So your weekly action should be really created by your monthly tasks. Your monthly tasks should really be created by your annual business plan. So this is a kind of a 6 Sigma way of approaching business development. And once you have your weekly tasks, the final step, the 4th step, is to time block the tasks. So let's say you have 15 tasks that need to be done in week number 1. Based on input from others or past experience, you know it's going to take you 5 hours to do this one action, right? So you could block out 5 hours on a Monday and just knock it out. Or you could say, okay, from 1 to 2 p.m., Monday through Friday, I'm gonna focus on that one thing. I'm gonna do it 5 days in a row, 5 hours. I should have it all done. See, the difference between extraordinary success, you guys, and below average results is simply speed of implementation. That's it. And many of you have heard me say this before. Those that I coach that achieve extraordinary success, like Mark Spain, over 8,000 transactions last year, Chris Waters, 5,700 deals last year, Lance Logan, one of my past clients, he's closing over 4,000 deals a year now. So the difference between them and everybody else is speed of implementation. It really is. So here's the secret. They fail faster. They fail faster than anyone else. And in so doing, they learn what works faster than everyone else. Once they find a strategy or tactic that works, again, they just invest time, energy, money, resources, people, whatever it takes to really scale that out in a powerful way. So to go back to the original question was, what could I expect in terms of increase in production? It would be my intention that you at least double your production over the last 12 months, at least. Go ahead,
Shon,
Ronnie.
Just a quick note here in closing up. I want to, Day has fixed your calendar. I've been putting your number in there steadily. Okay. I've been putting your number in there steadily. So they can either text you or they can go straight to your calendar. So Day, if you'll put that calendar over there, guys, take the opportunity that Shon has given you to have a good 30-minute conversation and coaching call with him to find out more about this result-driven coaching that we think is going to be revolutionary. Because if you don't produce, you don't have to pay, but you're going to produce. So you're going to want to make sure that you do this. So, and then the last one again over there, if you don't qualify, Dave, did you put that over there? I don't see it yet. There it is. Boom. Okay. So you could go to his calendar. It is fixed. Or you can just text him and get that 30-minute call. Guys, we are limited to just 20 people. We already got 5 on the books, so we got about 15 left slots. And if you want to be one of those, at least just have that conversation, please do that. Any last minute thing, Shon?
I don't think so. Guys, as I said, the only inventory we have in this business is time. And as Ronnie said as well. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes back. And I want you to make one more phone call because, the bottom line is this. If you want more appointments, and I know you do, all you have to do is create more conversations. That's it. Right? Even a salesperson without a ton of skill, if they talk to enough people, they're eventually going to find people that want to work with them. Okay. So it all boils down to the number of conversations that you can create. And at Icon Coaching, we help you identify who to have those conversations with. We help you identify different strategies and tactics to increase the amount of lead flow that you're receiving so that it's more of a warm outreach rather than a cold call. All right. So if you're interested, guys, we'd love to earn your business. In fact, you won't find another coaching company that works harder or more professionally to make sure that you're successful than Icon Coaching, guys. Thank you for your time. Enjoy your rest of your week. And till we talk again next time, guys, just be on purpose, be productive, be powerful. Rob, Dave, thank you so much for putting all this together. Talk to you all soon.
Thank you, guys. See you, Ronnie.
Thanks, Coach.